A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, it is a period of a kingdom living in peace, believing they have nothing to fear. But lurking in the shadows is a great and terrible evil. Just maybe not the one you think. The animated adaptation of the ND Stevenson webcomic is bursting out of a years-long development hell, and it's not here for your small-minded questions. It's here to be metal and give multiple generations of queer folks a lot of stuff to process. Seriously, this movie is amazing, but also, you definitely need the tissues. Hello there, and welcome back to 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. I'm your host, Sam Marchioni. Joining me today, Shamila Karanakran.
Therapy should include watching a gay night and a trans shark dance together while wearing sunglasses.
Callie Castle.
You know, it's really nice to see that for the next generation, we are back to making Don Bluth levels of trauma films again.
Ellie McConaughey.
I'm mostly just here to see if Sam will let me call this movie I Saw the TV Glow for Kids.
And Jasmine Garcia.
You really fumbled this, Disney!
Is that even new?
Yeah.
If there's one thing we learned from the D23 Expo and the Mufasa trailer, Disney is not in the business of putting out good movies anymore.
Nope, not right now, not that. My dear, dear listeners, we are here to talk about the Degree 4, which features technically 4 Degree 4s. Riz Ahmed, better known as Bodhi Rook in Rogue One, Eugene Lee Young, Tool/Young Tool in Visions, Lorraine Toussaint, Masago in Visions, and Nate Stevenson, an episode writer on LEGO Star Wars The Freemakers Adventure. We're talking Nimona, bitches.
Let's go!
No.
And also, I do believe he goes mostly by ND Stevenson now? I'm not sure, though.
Yeah, this is just how he's credited on IMDb.
There's been variations. It's Nate and ND that I've seen different versions of that I think he's cool with at this point. Just don't use the dead name that I'm pretty sure is still attached to S-Pop.
It most certainly is.
That's actually a super interesting thing there, because one of the things that I learned when they were put The Matrix on Netflix is they actually can't edit stuff like that. Like, guild rules prevent you from your credits changing unless it's like a complete reissue like Bound was with the Criterion Collection.
Well, that's interesting, because I remember it was a big deal when Netflix actually went back and changed Elliot Page's credits in like the first season of Umbrella Academy. We're not going to talk about Umbrella Academy. I've heard season 4 is bad, but that's not what we're here to talk about, because oh my god, Nimona.
Stevenson truly is giving us all of the gay fairy tales that we all should have gotten when we were kids.
He's also, and I have this in my notes like 3 different times, so this is just Catradora in 2 different fonts.
Yes, this is what I was saying. Ambrosia and Adora are the same character, different fonts.
Credit where credit is due. ND, he is credited as like a co-producer on this. He was clearly involved, but he does not actually have credit on screenplay or story. The screenplay is credited to Robert L. Baird and Lloyd Taylor. Story credit includes those 2, plus Pamela Ryben, Mark Hames, Nick Bruno, Troy Quayne, and Keith Boonen. And the directors were Nick Bruno and Troy Quayne.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of story writers, I'll admit. I feel like, and I don't know this, I feel like this film went through some
development hell, we'll say.
Well, given that it started at Blue Sky, then Blue Sky got bought by Disney, then Disney was like retooling it and then tossing it into the deep recesses of the Disney vault to maybe one day be accompanied by Willow, and then it got snatched up by Netflix. Yeah, I can see how this would get revised a bit.
This movie existing at all is a miracle. The fact that it exists as much of a damn near masterpiece as it does is a true fucking marvel.
All movies are miracles. This one is a bit more of a miracle than most.
Well, yes.
I love the animation in this movie. Like, it is truly
stunning.
a great...
It's like hand-painted animation. It's so fluid.
It's like a really nice blend of 3D animation and hand-drawn animation. Like, it's a proof that you can have the best of both worlds.
And it's I think my favorite thing that this animation does is turns. Whether it's like Nimona turning her head as she goes, "Did they let you keep the old one?" Or Ballister's angry head turn after Nimona goes, "I hate to say it, but you make a pretty good bad guy." Or the way the camera turns during that escape scene as Nimona's going on her shifting. Fucking so good.
Yeah, even in that sequence where she's shifting into a shot, it's like two frames where she does the shifting, and it is just smooth. You can barely tell.
The colors and the lighting too. Like, it's even when it's dark outside, it's still colorful and vivid, and you can see. Pay your lighting people, even if it's animation.
I did want to say, like, man, the whole cast is extremely good, but Chloe Grace Moretz is so fucking funny in this movie.
And it's so funny to me that this is the second role in which she played a misunderstood quote-unquote monster that burns down the town that rejected her. I'm just saying.
Of course, Jazz is delighted by that. Let's pretend to be surprised, everybody.
I knew she was funny. Like, she is genuinely one of the funniest cameos on 30 Rock. Anytime she shows up, you know that episode's gonna be great. But like, I think she has a line like very early on in the film where they're talking about going to get the Squire, and she's like, and then we get him, and like it's one of the best line reads of 2022 or 2023. When does the movie come out?
2023.
23.
Okay. Time is meaningless. We exist in hell.
Oh my god. This is one of those instances where, like, I don't fully buy into the argument that quote-unquote celebrities aren't real voice actors. Because this is an instance where the voice cast is fucking impeccable.
It's truly perfect. Like,
wouldn't change a single one.
No.
I know that Chloe Grace Moretz has done some voice acting before. Isn't she in that animated Addams Family?
She sure is. Yep, she's
Okay.
Wednesday. And for what it's worth, she's a good Wednesday.
But like she very rarely, she doesn't act super often nowadays. So if she's chosen to be in something, she usually feels pretty strongly about it. Especially since, like, I don't know, like after Miseducation and Suspiria one year, and then she's like, okay, I'm only doing movies that I want to do now.
Yeah, but that's fair. I mean, like, given how prolific she was, especially in the 2010s, I think she can afford to do it. Good for her.
Good for her indeed.
But oh my god, can we talk about Riz Ahmed?
We sure can. God, I love him.
Oh my god.
He's the whole reason I got into this film in the first place. Like, I knew about all the years of development hell that Chloe and Eugene were involved. I hadn't planned on seeing this, and then when the trailer came out on Tumblr, I decided to watch out of curiosity. The whole time I kept thinking, why does the guy in black sound so familiar? It wasn't until the scene where he went, "Let's break stuff," that I was like, "Oh, Riz Ahmed? No,
sure.
Like, you don't understand. I've been a fan since the night up. Like, Jazz and me, we cast him as the Beast in our fairy tale series. The Riz
sure
talent was named after him.
You have to realize, you said the guy in black, and now all I can think is Riz Ahmed as Wesley.
Shut up and take my money.
But I mean, let's face it, there's definitely some Princess Bride DNA here, because, just about anything that's kind of comedic and fairy tale-like is going to have Princess Bride DNA.
Yeah, any tongue-in-cheek fairy tale satire does kind of have that vibe, but
exactly.
I love Riz's voice performance so much. I think actually my favorite part is when he's doing the voice of Nimona as Ballister.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That was hilarious.
And I love that he got to keep his accent here, because that's another reason why he's an outsider.
The one person in this entire kingdom with an accent.
Yeah.
With a non-American accent, we should say.
Yes. The commentary is not subtle, but frankly, we don't need it to be subtle.
It
I
is
also
pretty on the
do
nose.
love that not only did they add modern tech to a fairy tale setting, because I love it when they do that, but they actually used it to further the commentary. Like, this is basically just America in a fairy tale setting and all the corruption it implies.
It's like if 9/11 dominated our mindset for 1,000 years, which, you know, could still fucking happen. We're only 23 years into 9/11 dominating
Ballister's whole
everything.
arc, the whole beats of it follows that.
100%. And this is basically an ACAB fairy tale, and I love it.
Well, that was sort of one of the things that I found really interesting from like an outsider perspective, because like there is, in just the way it's cast, in theory, kind of a racial element, but I feel like, you know, they kind of back away from that a little bit, in which I think is a reasonably smart move, because look, I don't know how to put this in a way that doesn't make me sound like I'm telling fantasy writers to stick to fantasy. When you put racialized element into like a fantasy thing, it can get really weird really fast unless you're doing it really carefully.
Of course,
well, I mean, to put it in other Netflix terms, this is a hell of a lot better than fucking Bright.
Yeah. Exactly.
What's right?
Whereas like social commentary, like, you know,
Shemmy,
class commentary.
Shemmy, you don't want to know. You don't want to know what Bright is.
Don't look into Bright. Bright is very bad.
I'll trust y'all too.
Yeah. Why?
it's the Will Smith fairy movie.
Don't give them information.
Okay.
Fine, I should have
I needed to know to not look it up.
I've totally lost track of what I was saying.
About like putting racialized elements in like the fairy tale settings and how that.
Right.
So you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that, especially if you are a white writer working from the outside, which, you know, ND Stevenson is white, and I speaking as a trans person and a queer person more generally, like we are not qualified to write about racialized stuff just because we're queer. It's not the same thing.
Well, Ballister and Ambrosius were both white in the original webcomic.
Yeah, but Ballister is like now Pakistani, like Riz Ahmed is, and like Ambrosius, who has the most ridiculous name. I kid you not.
Ambrosius Goldenloin. Wow.
Just nectar
What
of
a
God's
name.
good and bad. That's what his name amounts to.
Might as well have just named him Eros.
No, but a huge part of the film is how like both Alistair and Ambrosius are Asian, and it's used to like deconstruct the minority model myth and respectability politics, and that is like they're like huge like components of like the Asian American community. They kind of represent opposite sides of the spectrum. Like, yeah, it's getting a little bit lectury here, but hold on.
I mean, I don't know how much it deconstructs it, given that it does still kind of fall into that idea that Ballister ends up proving himself at the end.
But it's also
like,
how do I explain it?
It's complicated.
Yes.
I mean, you don't really get the sense that he goes back to, you know, the way things were before. Like, at the ending, they're distinctively not wearing armor. They're clearly in civilian attire. So I think it's safe to say something was kind of taken apart.
I do question a system where fucking Todd is still
It's
not
perfect, but it's
fucking Todd.
Perfect casting, perfect performance by Beck Bennett. Fuck Todd.
Yes.
Fuck Todd.
But actually, like,
he's not even.
Technically, the directors, they split like comic Ambrosius into two separate characters, like a decomposed character. So basically, this Ambrosius got all of comic Ambrosius's more charming traits, and all the more negative stuff that was compiled into Todd, and he's an original character for this.
It's Gaston all over again.
Todd does have a very punchable face, though. They are correct. Everybody's correct on that front.
Yes.
But I haven't read the webcomic in a hot minute, so I don't want to like speak too heavily to the changes they made. I will say that, you know, making it I'm going to use a Lord of the Rings analogy like I always do. Like in the book, Boromir is killed by just a bunch of orcs shooting with arrows off screen, and Aragorn finds him. When you're going to put that on screen, you do kind of want, especially since it's the last thing that happens in the movie, you do kind of want to put that all on one orc so that Aragorn can kick the shit out of him, like to give audience someone to dislike, because that works a lot better in film form. That's what they did. They made alerts. And, you know, you can debate whether or not that's like a smart choice, but I think that it works in a film form, especially one for kids, where you kind of have to like keep it simple.
I always meant to read the original webcomic, but I just never got around to it, and now I'm definitely motivated to, just because, that's my kind of thing. But
I read the comic in preparation. It's a very different experience from watching the movie. It's a lot more focused on Nimona as a character, and Ballister is significantly less likable. Not that characters need to be likable, but he's less likable in that he's asking small-minded questions for a lot more of the
well,
Yeah.
honestly, it makes sense that they took that out, especially given the fact that they did in fact race bend him. Well, yes,
Yeah.
like we said, they held back on going full race allegory on racism, but to have one of your only characters of color doing that would feel weird.
Questionable. Highly questionable.
But also, like, I made the I saw the TV Glow comparison a minute ago. I think, Sam, you're still the only one besides me who's seen it.
Yes, and you still owe me for the therapy I haven't gotten.
Send me a bill and I will not pay it. But like, part of the thing that I think works about that movie in a way that Nimona can't with its trans allegory, and it's not as blunt as TV Glow, but it is a very blunt trans allegory. It is saying the quiet part loud a lot of the time.
It's barely even allegory, to be honest.
Precisely. But one of the things that makes that movie so good and better than this one, even though I think this is an amazing movie, is like it doesn't need to be commercial or appeal to kids because it's a weird little outsider art horror movie, whereas this is like a big, broad kids movie, so it kind of has to bring it down to a really specific level. And also my impression on reading the webcomic, and this never really went away, is that Nate was finding the story of Nimona in the writing of it, which is not something you can do on an animated film.
No, definitely not.
But no, I compared it to Dawn Bluth for a reason. Y'all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's never been so much melanin in a Dawn Bluth film, though.
So it's like Thumbelina?
Get out.
Boo.
Look, I love
But no.
Dawn Bluth. Let's not pretend the man did not have stinkers.
Oh, he definitely had stinkers, but
Well, yeah, everyone
this
does.
was more like Dawn Bluth at his best. I get what you mean.
Yeah, this is more American Tail than Thumbelina.
But no, it's like, it's trauma. It's pain. It's a hurt. It's time to teach kids about the real world. No, I'm kidding. But no, it is really good. Like, but I did cry, and I was just like, oh god, it's Dawn Bluth for the next generation. Let's go.
I mean, y'all heard me at the beginning. I'm only kind of acting there. Like, I literally just finished it as of us recording it, and I'm still emotionally recovering from this epic kaiju finale.
Yeah,
Oh
Jazz,
my
Jazz,
god, that kaiju design's so good.
Yes.
I don't want to spoil the
rocks.
comics
It's
for you, but
beautiful.
juxtaposing it with the end of the comic is quite a thing.
Interesting.
Incidentally, for those of you keeping track at home, that was our second Catador in a different font, everybody.
Oh, absolutely. God, just like the flashback sequence, I hurt so bad.
Oh, God.
Oh my god, my little baby girl. And so much of it done without voice acting. Just music and animation,
And
and
then
it's
that
so
transition
good.
from young Gloreth with the wooden sword to that statue of adult Gloreth with the golden sword. Oh.
So the question I have about that scene, and I've heard different people give me different answers to this. I'm always curious what people think. When Gloreth like tells Nimona to get out, do we feel that is like sincere, go away, I don't want to anymore? Or is this like a Harry and the Hendersons, break her heart to save her moment?
I think it's both.
I think
even
it was
she
supposed
doesn't
to
know.
be an example of child indoctrination into
Yeah.
hatred.
Yeah.
I
can
think
see that.
even Glorith doesn't know, really.
I always read it very much as a break her heart to save her moment. I'm basing that mostly on how the actress delivers her line, her one line.
I think that Glorith knows that what you're supposed to say to monsters is go back to the shadows from whence you came, but she's also processing the feelings of this is my friend that I am sending away, and I don't know. Maybe she feels betrayed by Nimona, ? It feels like that given how it's juxtaposed with how Ballister reacts after Ambrosius gives him the very convenient scroll that the director just happened to find, and god damn it.
How convenient.
The fucking director, man. Once again, I am in a review with Ellie in which we're like, okay, that's clearly the bad guy, right?
She is a complete and utter Karen.
Yup.
Another thing that Nate Stevens seems to like, having your white-clad kind of Christian allegory turn out to be the bad guy is interesting. Interesting that.
I mean, it's not like he has religious trauma or something.
No,
That
but
he
this makes so
famously
much
talks
sense about why Ballister is also very heavily Muslim-coded. Like, think of the beats of his story. He's framed as a terrorist by the white Christian institution, and from then on, doesn't matter how good he tries to be, everyone else sees him as a monster.
This isn't what Glorith would have wanted.
It hurt.
Bitch, how do you know? Are you fucking talking to Glorith?
I mean, let's face it, it's like when current politicians talk about the founding fathers. It's like, bitch, none of us were there.
Do you have a Ouija board that you're not telling us about?
The founding father analog is pretty interesting to me because, Glorith in this story is pretty clearly an analog for a religion, and we say in this country that we don't have a state religion, but the painting in the rotunda is the apotheosis of Washington, the ascension of God to godhood of Washington. The founding father worship
is the religion.
Yeah, founding father worship is basically our
There's
state religion.
God on our money.
That too.
That
But
too.
also, yeah, we do
You're probably gonna have to break it down for the non-US in the room. I'm Canadian.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The words "in God we trust" are written on basically every piece of US currency.
What?
Yep.
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 Oh god.
The
Ugh.
Ten Commandments are outside of government buildings.
What?
Even though they're not supposed to be.
Nope.
We don't even have this in Canada!
Yeah, no, it's just like religious freedom is certainly a good idea, and we are practicing it in theory, but when the state itself is treated like a religion, it really is kind of pointless. And that's kind of what's happening here.
Yep.
And that one got heavy. Sorry, everyone.
It was going to come up eventually.
I find it weird that, once everything is said and done, they rebuild the wall around the town to protect them from monsters. I thought that was kind of an odd choice to go back to.
I think less of the wall was destroyed than maybe you thought, Callie.
It could
Yeah.
be, yeah.
I mean, also, this is not a criticism of the story. It's more like the framing on the wall is probably one of the weaker things in the movie. They briefly kind of reference it like it's like Attack on Titan or something. Like, you step outside the wall, you're gonna get murked. But then Ballister, I think ambiguously is outside of the wall the entire movie. I actually wasn't clear on where his hideout was.
I don't think so, because he...
No, he was
in the
still within the city.
You have to imagine they have some kind of agricultural area anyway, because otherwise how are they getting pineapple to put on their pizza and olives to not be on their nachos?
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and it's like potatoes in fantasy stories. We're just gonna go ahead and ignore that. We're gonna put
It's
that
a
over
fantasy story. Who cares?
Precisely. I don't know. I feel like the wall is one of those things that didn't make a massive amount of sense, but it doesn't really need to. It's an allegory.
Its purpose. It serves a narrative purpose. That's all it needs to do.
The wall is a metaphor at
Because
this
you
rate.
know what fascists are really big fans of.
Exactly.
We do.
Yeah.
Painfully so.
Now the question is, am I making a real life reference or a Hades Town reference?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
given some of the political issues of Attack on Titan, you could also be making an Attack on Titan reference.
I haven't watched Attack on Titan. You cannot make me watch Attack
Keep
on
that up.
Titan. I will never watch Attack on Titan.
You are wiser than me, as often is the case, Sam.
Speaking of the commentary, I did love all of the little references to fantasy capitalism, basically.
Fantasy Monopoly!
Fantasy cereal commercials that ends up coming back when Nimona shifts into the mascot, and even Todd's just like, crispy! And it's just like, yep, I feel like that's a lot of us, unfortunately, in that situation. Because, we are brainwashed by the commercials as children.
Unfortunately, silly rabbit tricks are for kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, but then we get the punch towards the end of the board game of I killed a monster.
Yeah, God.
Ah.
I mean, like in our transgender allegory, we sort of like forget as we get older, unless you are transgender, just like how much of media we grew up with uses trans person ew as a
Yep.
punchline.
Oh, absolutely.
Would you like a list of all of the cartoons I like that have used that punchline? It's a lot of them.
I'm sure
Uh,
it is.
Yeah.
so like if we extend our metaphor out, that's sort of like one of the more insidious ways that like cultural, I don't want to call it programming, 'cause it's not really like uh, when I say programming, I feel like I'm implying an intentional act by a conspiracy. It's not. It's just sort of like the way the norms are reinforced through
Mhm.
media. Monsters are bad, therefore we should have a game for kids about slaying them. Trans people are icky, so let's just make jokes about that. It's not a conspiracy. It's just like lazy writing, lazy creation, going back to the lowest common denominator.
Because, and even if there are people who do have ill intent behind it, it's not like most of the people who are repeating it are even thinking about it, because until you're
Mhm.
given a reason to think about it, you're not gonna.
I have a very lengthy rant about another movie which is probably eligible for this podcast, but it's actually eligible for mine too, so I gotta save it for that if we ever get to Silence of the Lambs.
Mm.
Oh, duh.
At least degree 6 by virtue of Anthony Hopkins, because he was in the Thor movies with Natalie Portman, but probably has some crew members in there. I'm gonna shut up now because I'm turning into ire.
I love you, Sam. Yeah, I totally don't know where I was going with that little tangent.
That was
Declaration
a valid
of been
one.
trans as well to offset what you know.
I mean, like the trans allegory is really blunt, but I feel like the people focus on, like, maybe for me, I can't speak to the trans mass experience, so and my usual source of information on that is in Greenland right now.
Callie.
Uh,
Hello.
Hello, but the part that sort of hit me the hardest is actually the part where they were on the train and like that sort of very casual kind of concern that cis people have. Like when I came out to my uncle and aunt, they were like, "Well, are you sure you don't want to just like wait until you have a steady job? It's gonna be really hard for you to find a job. It wouldn't it just make everyone else around you more comfortable if you just didn't?" And I like that is voiced by a character we're supposed to like, because people say that kind of shit meaning to be helpful, and it's really not. Uh,
So
and
fucking not
then
helpful. Sorry, I'll stop talking.
no, it's fine. And like I like that Nimona goes like, no, fuck off. I got to do this. I have to be me more than you. I have to make you comfortable. And now I'm done.
And yeah, it's nice that, yes, we obviously do love Ballister, but I love that the narrative allows him to be ignorant when it comes to Nimona's whole deal. Like, I think it's really important to especially in kids' movies, to acknowledge the kids. It's like, even the nicest people in the world can be wrong about things.
Part of Ballister's whole thing, like being Muslim code, it's extremely important to how he's interacting with Nimona, and like telling her, maybe it's more easier if you do this. It's cringy. It's wrong, but it's also so much like how South Asian kids, especially those from religious minorities, we're taught how to do so by our families, because it's often the only way not to be targeted by violence. So let me put this in further context. Imagine yourself in Shami's shoes. You're born to immigrant parents, refugees. Your dad is Hindu, your mom is Catholic, but you're raised Catholic and your mom insists on sending you to a religious school. You're the only brown kid in class, and you're neurodivergent, even though you don't find out about it until university. It makes you stand out in a bad way, and you're isolated because of it. So, you stop speaking Tamil to your parents. You stop speaking about the special interests that your classmates ridicule you for. Every year, you think that if you try hard enough, if you fit in with everyone else enough, maybe the bullying will stop. Middle school starts, and 9/11 happens.
Oof.
And suddenly, you have all your relatives telling you to suppress yourself even further until you're practically invisible. It's not until you get locked into the bathroom that you get called a terrorist by your classmates that you realize why your relatives are telling you to do that. That target on your back is bigger than ever. And it's the only way that your family knows how to protect you. It's the only way that you can survive in the years that follow. So yes, it's messed up that Ballister is suggesting that, but with the way that he would have had to grow up, it's not an excuse, but it's a reason.
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, my parents are immigrants too, and while we never had the experiences like you did, there is this pressure to belong, to assimilate, and that's how, for example, my Afro-Dominican father was comfortably working with the police and was an air marshal for a very long time, and still kind of believes in the institutions that he spent a good chunk of his life serving. It's so fucking tragic how often, just in order to try and survive, the very people that the institutions would turn on in a heartbeat, as we see throughout the movie, end up buying into it.
Nimona calls it out. Ballister
Exactly.
got brainwashed real good.
Yes.
Beyond just arm chopping is not a love language.
And
Ballister finds out the director set him up.
Yep.
And his reaction is, oh, the director's the problem, not the institute.
No!
The director's a bad apple, that's all.
No.
How do you think the director got to the top, bestie?
Mm-hmm.
Also, a line I don't think gets talked about enough. He didn't cut off my arm. He was disarming a weapon. It's how we were trained.
I knew.
The institute was like literally taking young kids and turning them into weapons. They're trained, like even Ambrosia's cutting off.
It's not even taking young kids.
Yeah.
These kids are born into it. They're groomed for it.
And also, talk about 1984 level doublespeak, right?
Yes.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah. And Ambrosia's
It's the same thing, bud.
Yeah, Ambrosia's cutting off his Ballister's arm. It's an ingrained instinct. Yeah, you can see it on his face. He doesn't realize what he's doing until it's too late, until the blade is already too far along in the swing, and then he dropped his sword. Like, he didn't even know how it got in the hand in the first place. And then he looks at Ballister with just dawning horror about what he's done on instinct.
To the man he loves.
Oh my god.
Okay.
And Ballister probably had to do surgery on himself to make that arm work.
And he had to construct his robotic arm for his dominant arm, because his dominant arm was cut off.
But that's another thing that movies kind of skip over. You know, like, I'm away for 5 minutes. I've built a completely Bruce Campbell's character in Army of Darkness, like, I have built a working robot arm out of whatever's lying around in medieval times. It's fine.
I mean, in the comics, Ballister is a big science nerd, and that's part of why he's asking Nimona the small-minded questions, because he's anti-magic to a degree. And I'm like, Jane Foster would love you, but also Jane Foster would hate you, and oops, my Jane Foster obsession is showing.
They kind of like skip past really most of the explanations about like tech in this movie, which again, I don't need it. I don't need to know how the hover bikes work. There's a shapeshifter right over there. It's fine.
But man, we got really heavy on this whole thing.
Ballister is Bucky Barnes 2.0.
Yeah, kind of. But you know what? Fucking, I'm gonna be heavy again. Like Nimona's line about how even little kids are taught that the way to be a hero is to slay anything that is different. From you.
Yeah.
That
hits hard.
Oh my god. And like the subtle bits of foreshadowing where like she's pulling out the cord on that kid who's riding like that stupid little front of store video game thing.
I'm gonna ask a dumb question. Nimona's pronouns, are they actually she, her, or are they them? What are the? Because I know it's just constantly.
I don't think Nimona does pronouns.
That's kind of what I
Nimona's
thought,
just
too.
Nimona.
Nimona never gives pronouns.
Yeah.
But also Nimona doesn't object to being referred to as she, her.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a reason why she, her, they, them pronouns for Nimona are a tag on AO3.
So like one of the conversations I had with mostly well-meaning cis people about I Saw the TV Glow over the last few months is like, well, what pronouns do we use to refer to Justice Smith's character? To which I'm like, mate, he is a fictional character. He never says, I'm a girl, call me she, her. Like, he is just gonna be a dude because that's who he is in the movie. Until, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it. Like, I think that like unless it's a brought up point in the movie, the fact that everyone and their dog refers to Nimona by she, her pronouns, like, man, until she brings it up, you're doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to do too much because it was just like.
No, I agree with you. No, that's fair. I like that. You know, when people are like, "What are you?" She's just like, "I'm Nimona," because that's. But like, I that's just sort of like my general stance on subtextually trans narratives. Like,
fair.
You know,
I wasn't trying to overthink it.
I mean, I think the implication is that this civilization is okay with queer people because the director says spouse, and like there doesn't seem to be anything keeping Ballister and Ambrosius apart in terms of they're both guys, which is great.
It's more of a classism thing, I'm thinking.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Classism and then, wanted for murder thing.
The bar is so low at the tavern in Hades.
Well, it's interesting because like one of the things that I sort of like read into the film, and maybe I'm once again doing too much, is like I kind of feel like Ambrosius got some not guilt by association, but social stigma by association.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And like I couldn't tell if that was supposed to be homophobia or just more class stuff. But they don't. They also don't.
It reads as more class stuff because he's put on a pedestal because of head of the knights, and he's like a descendant of Glorious, so he's held to like that unfair standard.
I mean, like even Todd, who clearly Todd wants to take the spot Ambrosius holds. Like Todd's not above a little homoerotic, belligerent sexual tension, complaining that Ambrosius's hair smells like lavender.
Yeah, they're different. Like, he's a bro who's probably uncomfortable with he might be a little uncomfortable with the fact that he might have some weird feelings for Ambrosius, but a lot of it is just jealousy, and also, while I don't know if it's really homophobia, it's just more of a fact that, hey, you're attached to this guy that we didn't like in the first place, and now he killed the queen, you dumb asshole.
Fuck Todd. Fuck Todd.
All my homies hate Todd.
Apologies to any listeners we have named Todd. You guys are
we don't
fine.
mean you.
Probably very lovely.
But also, like, Ambrosius is not the focus of the
fuck
movie.
this Todd in particular.
It's not just like homophobia, the transphobia aspect. It's also the classism with how Ballister is being treated, especially within the Knights and in the institution itself. Like, the director literally claims that the start of the crack in the wall was the Queen giving Ballister a chance to prove himself and become a Knight. Like, she's fully blaming that prospect of giving a non-noble, like, lower-class person chance to become a Knight, that she sees that as the catalyst for the opportunity for monsters to invade.
That's conservative brain rot for you.
I'm also gonna guess it wasn't completely coincidental that the Queen was a black lady.
Exactly.
Oh, definitely not.
It's that too.
So Ambrosius is a descendant of Glorith, so Glorith descendants aren't the Queen? Or is Queen like an elected position?
No, it's like a caste thing, I think.
Yeah.
Glorith created like a noble class / caste, and it's like, okay, knights can only come from these established bloodlines. but
Yeah.
I guess there was a different bloodline that the queen comes from.
Because keep in mind, Glorith is clearly not royal or noble of any kind in that flashback.
Yeah.
She's just a girl. She's just a regular girl in a regular village.
Yeah, so it really shows like how much it was twisted over the years. Like for 1,000 years, like they don't have like all the facts. All they have are like the legends and like all the stories that of how glorious
Conveniently
Glorith
scrapped
was. But when she
scrolls.
was literally just a kid and a commoner kid at that. Like that's probably the parts of history that were written by people who were trying to glorify certain things, so they may have changed a few details.
Glorify, if you will.
Yes.
Boo this person, boo.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we are making this out to be like the deepest movie ever, which it's not, but there's a lot of themes to chew on and I love it for it. But at the end of the day, it's just a really heart-wrenching, beautifully animated fairy tale, and the fact that it ends with Ballister stopping her from putting herself on the Glorith sword.
And she's reaching out with his prosthetic arm and going, "I see you, Nimona, and you are not alone."
I sob.
And then the baby becomes a phoenix, and she charges at the big laser, my baby.
Yeah.
You know, I was so mad. I was so mad because I was just like, wait, okay, come on, Disney death, give me the Disney death, give me the Disney death. And the fact that it's
no, you gotta work for it.
Yeah.
I told you I needed a sequel.
No, I know that, but my point is, I was just waiting for it, but it kept on going on and on without her coming back. I was just like, no way did you guys actually kill her off. And then literally at the last
Do you want me
possible
to spoil
second,
the comics?
No. And then literally at the last possible second, and I'm just like, you bastards.
And we literally end with Ballister getting cut off as he's swearing, and then with those big sparkly anime eyes.
Yep.
But really, we need to talk about the most important question that this movie asks. Can a shark dance?
Fuck yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, shark can dance.
Okay, here's my 300-page essay on how the shark showing up as a reference to Blowhigh.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, one other thing I did want to talk about, like, speaking of the shark dancing, weirdly enough, I really did like how it portrayed the response to the director's confession, like, in a less intelligent movie. It would either be one or the other. Everybody gets on board and helps overthrows the kingdom, or nobody believes it because it just can't be. But I like that it was portrayed as a range of responses, and also that just because the truth has been revealed, it does not solve everything. I thought that was really smart.
I like it when movies sort of like acknowledge like it doesn't matter what's true. You know, if there's one thing that I've learned from watching the news the last unholy
Decades or
stream
so.
years, it doesn't really matter what's true, what the evidence says. There are people who are just going to believe it because their pre-existing worldview doesn't want to.
Remember how it was like less than a month ago that a major candidate for president was getting shot at?
Mm-hmm.
And like,
wild.
The entire world feels completely different now.
Literally, one of the last things I saw on Twitter before I hopped on for this conversation was said former president ranting about how Kamala Harris's crowds were AI CGI, which is something that makes tons of sense. Don't worry about it. My point is just that like there are people who are just going to believe something not because it's factually true or because any of the evidence, because here is their worldview. This is what fits into their worldview. It's why it's pointless to argue with flat Earth people.
Yeah, it kind of feels like this movie was definitely written before AI became a huge thing, because otherwise that would have been, I think, incorporated into this a little more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that
glad it wasn't, but
my impression of the movie, and I don't mean this as much of an insult as it sounds like, but like my impression of the movie is that it was kind of written piecemeal over the course of its troubled production. Like you can see if you know what to look for, the cracks where like a different writer has to like take up some plot threads and kind of like tie them all together. That doesn't mean it has to be a bad thing. Movies are miracles, and this one is more of a miracle than most. But I feel like this movie had been getting lots of rewrites. I feel like at some point like there's one sequence that I'm actually very, very fond of where like they cut over to Ambrosius and the director asks him like, "How are you?" And he goes on this really long rant, and then it like snaps back into that the rant that he went on wasn't real. It was just going on in his head. I feel like that's like a leftover of a different draft of the script, or stuff like that happen more often.
Mm-hmm. Most likely.
Yeah.
You can tell me to shut the fuck up anytime you want.
No, you're making good points.
Yeah, but
No, it's
I hope if there is any follow-up that Ambrosius and Nimona get to actually interact. I feel like that would be fascinating after everything that's gone
Yeah,
down.
there was this one post where they were saying like with Glorith pointing the sword at Nimona, we need to have a scene where Ambrosius is offering the handle of the sword to Nimona and offering to teach her how to sword fight if she wants to.
That would be very fun.
Do not
fuck
teach.
yes.
I mean,
Nimona
I'd like to see
sword fight.
Ambrosius offering Nimona pineapple on pizza, and she smacks it out of his hand. And then they
Oh,
get
that
into a
too,
deep
that too.
argument. And then they get into a deep argument about the best snacks.
Maybe
I want to see awkward stepdad Ambrosius trying to get
Yes.
along with his boyfriend's kid.
Exactly. I just want this family sitcom, this found family sitcom, please.
ND did draw this Nimona and her dad's little AU, this little comic thing. It's so cute. I want to see like a continuation of that.
Look, if there's one arena of the
Her
world
dads
where
whom she's both older than.
Yes.
where a
Shh, don't worry about it.
where
Don't
where
worry
And
about
a,
who she may have had a baby gay relationship with Ambrosius's ex, 10 times great grandmother.
Quite
Don't
possibly.
worry about it. Don't talk about it. Don't.
if there's one arena of media where you can maybe hope for a follow-up animated TV show, it is animated kids movies. You would be surprised at what has gotten an animated TV show follow-up.
Truly, it's a miracle.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I hope this has legs. Like, I realize not everything needs to be a franchise, but I kind of want this to be a franchise.
I mean, it would be better than endless slog of sequels and live action remakes.
Those are done to death.
Yeah.
Netflix said it was a big hit. Netflix is also lying a lot of the time. I don't even know how I can parse that to be more gentle. Netflix is lying. It has to be lying
that's
about
valid.
its metrics. And we know that they're lying because they said, "Oh, this TV show was a huge hit," and then we canceled it after one season.
First kill, R.I.P.
First kill, R.I.P.
Mm.
So I don't know if they have any plans to follow up.
Yeah, okay. We won't give the credit to Netflix for this being as good as it is. We'll give it to Annapurna Pictures.
Yeah, because this might be I feel like this is a modern masterpiece. I feel like in 10 or 20 years we're gonna be hearing all the kids that grew up on this just gushing about it, and it's gonna be glorious.
We haven't even really talked about the music. The
That is
music's
true.
fucking rad too.
Hell yes.
It's slap.
I mean, Annapurna Pictures is a really good production company. They've put out a lot of stuff that I like. They've kind of stopped doing stuff as much as I like. I think except for this, they did Landscape with Invisible Hand last year, and they've only got Night Bitch coming out this year. Extremely excited for that. But Kajillionaire, if Beale Street Could Talk, I'm pretty sure they were founded by a lesbian. So they've got a lot of cred in the queer media landscape. So if anyone's they're gonna.
Nice.
I love these characters. I love this movie. My trans baby. My found family baby. I love them. I love all of it.
So wildly creative. And the thing is, the basic idea of hey, the monster isn't who we thought they were. It has been done to death. Hell, I kept on making comparisons to Wicked in my head for a lot of this.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
I'm not wrong. I am not wrong. All I could hear was Defying Gravity in my head when Ambrosius and Ballister reunited at that restaurant. Like, I don't want it. I can't want it anymore. And this is probably the closest since I was 12 years old watching Defying Gravity on Broadway for the first time that I felt in a while, to be honest. It's got that same vibe. It's like, yes, this is an old theme, but we are going to pump as much creativity and heart as we possibly can.
Okay, but how have we not brought up? Arm chopping is not a love language yet.
We've briefly brought it up, but yes,
not a love language.
it is an excellent line. A+.
It's an excellent
And the
line.
fact that it comes up again when Ambrosius is this close to flipping out on the director, I fucking loved that. It's like, who
Actually,
among us has it?
It's an hysterical scene. Like Eugene Lee Yang, he does some of his best voice acting in that scene.
Oh, absolutely.
okay. Arm chopping is not a love language is extremely funny, but I'm sorry. The best Ambrosius line read is when he's like watching Nimona as Ballister, like, messing around, and the way he recognizes that it's not actually Ballister. He
hates freeform
jazz.
jazz.
He knows his man!
He knows his man.
It's shit like that. That's why we buy into the idea that they managed to come back together after everything they've done to each other.
Mhm.
Mostly Ambrosius, to be fair.
Well, that and also they kissed.
They sure did.
Yes.
Look, if there's one thing Nate Stevenson knows, it's friends to enemies to lovers is the best. He's right.
It's up there.
He is
It's up
correct.
there.
Yep, we really got Dora and Catra as
I mean, in fairness, I think it is implied that they were, at the very least, in a budding
Dating.
relationship before everything went
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
I don't think they ever really became enemies, TBH.
It's complicated. We'll chalk it up to that.
They're gonna have a lot of therapy, a lot of
Yes.
couples therapy, and a lot of family therapy, and individual therapy.
Again, fun subplot for the family sitcom we pitched.
Yes.
I want to see what therapy looks like in this world.
Put Ambrosius in the I'm not the stepdad, I'm the stepdad who
Now who stepped up? Yeah.
Fuck yes.
God damn it. You should kick me out of this call right now. Goodbye.
Oh my god. Also, though,
I will do
Ambrose
no
is just
such
coming
thing.
by for a date, and Nimona shifts into, like, a dad form to be like, and what are your intentions towards my Ballister?
Ooh, I like that.
Please.
Nimona would do it.
But Nimona would 100% do it because, again, technically, she is older than both of them by several centuries.
She is a gremlin and we love it.
The bestest gremlin.
Being the child is not actually a matter of age. I'm Lord of the Rings metaphor, as I always use. Frodo is significantly older than Boromir.
That is true.
Honestly, there is an argument there. I don't know if we know Boromir's exact birthday. There is an argument that he is the youngest member of the Fellowship.
Quite
age-wise.
Possibly.
Yeah. But shout out to Oakworm on YouTube, because I also rewatched Oakworm's video. Nimona also needs therapy because she's probably emotionally stunted. The fact that she never, except when she's taking Ballister's shape, she never goes above, like, teenager.
Yeah.
That girl has
Yeah.
never gotten over what happened with Glorith.
No, definitely not. Like,
No.
And who can blame her?
yeah, it doesn't really matter how much older than them she is. She has never really felt the unconditional love that a parent ought to be giving to a child. So, yeah, they're her dads.
Gay people will have really bad breakups without even dating.
That's a mood right there.
There it is. That's all I got.
Also, that poor Squire. He's like, imagine his day. Like, he's recording his crush on, like, the knighting ceremony. He has all this evidence that Ballister didn't do it.
It took me till this watch to realize, oh, he was telling the truth. You can, like, see it. How nervous he is to talk to Ballister and the way he's holding up his phone, and then fucking Todd.
Yeah.
We could have avoided all of this if not for fucking Todd.
It's always
Are we really
Todd.
surprised?
Fucking Todd!
Are we really surprised, though?
No, but we can
I'm
hope.
not surprised, but we can still say fucking Todd.
Oh, we absolutely
Fuck
can.
Todd.
Fuck Todd.
So help me, Todd.
Ugh.
I can't believe this
Oh,
is
God.
the same guy who voiced like Launchpad in DuckTales.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Beck Bennett. Again, this voice cast is immaculate. The animation's immaculate. There's so many good themes to chew on.
I also want to say kudos to Julio Torres because I swear to God, I kept thinking he was Brandon Scott Jones just because I love the US version of Ghosts so much, and Isaac is one of my favorite characters. So Brandon and Julio have similar voices, but Julio gives such a good performance. Like that, oh, let me find someone else to pass this off to.
Also, shout out to the reporters who look just like their voice actors, RuPaul and India Moore.
I do love it when they take the celebrity cameo in an animated thing and just basically make what this celebrity would look like in that world. I just think that's a neat trope.
It's a great idea.
I had to look up whether or not olanzapam was like a drug name or something. I'm like, is that an antidepressant or is that like a hormone replacement or something? It sounds like a medication name.
No, no, but it's just a touch below Ambrosius in terms of name weirdness.
Yeah, but it is fun to say olanzapam.
Gotta love it.
And Todd's actual name is Thaddeus.
Oh no, Todd is
Fuck
just
this
barely an
man.
improvement.
I think I've known trans girls with the name Thaddeus.
Oh,
Thaddeus sounds like a trans stripper name.
do not
Okay,
put
I
that
feel
even
like-
in
I
our
feel-
heads.
I have to go to a job application. I'll be right back.
Oh no!
All right, well, while Ellie is getting together her resume to figure all of that out, is the Force with it?
It's metal enough to
The
be
Force.
to be.
The Force is with it.
The Force is with it, even if arm chopping is not a love language.
No, but according to Tumblr user Glamophonic, it is if you read a Clamp manga. Or
Oof.
if you watch Revolutionary Girl Athena, as Ellie would say.
I feel like that question's got to be kind of like redundant when we've been singing this movie's praises for an hour now. But yes, obviously the Force is with it, and
It's a fucking formality, Ellie. We
I know,
have to
I'm
ask.
being a
I
shit.
forgot to ask in the Princess Bride episode, and River never lets me live it down.
Oof.
I will handle River for you.
Sam from the editing room here. This was hyperbole. River, please don't come for me.
You know, if it might be illegal to forget to ask if the Force is with it, but I will make it legal.
All right, does anybody have a dragon-themed cereal or something else they would like to plug?
I'm the host of Postcards from Mystic Falls, a podcast where residents of Mystic Falls drag newcomers into the Vampire Diaries coven. We'll be starting with the Vampire Diaries and continuing with each of the 2 spin-offs. You can find Postcards on social media at Mystic Falls Pod in the link below, and you can find me on social media in my link tree below. And remember, it's Mystic Falls. Nothing bad ever happens here.
You can find me, as always, on Twitter, Blue Sky, theoretically, Medium, and Letterboxd at LSR42. You can find me on Tumblr, Football and Tuxedos, with dashes between the names. And I am the host of one of the sister podcasts of this one, the Biggest Night in Podcasting, where we watch a randomly selected Oscar-winning movie and discuss it. We've got some great episodes coming up. I keep roping Sam into episodes because I love her so, and we always have great discussions, so check us out. You can find us anywhere. Well, not anywhere podcasts are cast. Spotify and YouTube at the Biggest Night in Podcast.
I am the host of another sister podcast, ND Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made news. So Lightning Thief Month is still going strong, and by the time this episode drops, we'll be on our way to our episodes on the musical and season 1 of the show. So consider following us for that wherever pods are cast. And you can find me at Favor VR on basically all the socials.
And you can find me on the Online Muse on Tumblr, where I post listicles and graphics, and where you can find me for all your fancast requests.
As for me, I will ask that you keep the spirit of Star Wars alive by supporting artists through the Entertainment Community Fund, and by taking action to support anti-imperial and anti-colonial movements across the globe, partially by using links provided below, and by taking action in your community. And you can find me on the wider internet as La Femme Fictionale, including on YouTube, Twitter, and Tumblr, where you can also find the blog for this show. Our theme music is provided by Refractory Period, the two girls' one-beat synth-pop sensation. You can follow them on Instagram at Refractory Period the band. To further support this podcast, please subscribe to us on your platform of choice, leave reviews, and share with your friends to boost our visibility. And consider joining Patreon, where you can get early access to our bi-weekly recaps of The Acolyte as it airs. And now it's time to turn to the Chance Cube to decide where our journey takes us next.
That's a 2!
How 2?
That's a 2, which means next up, bodies, bodies, bodies.
Let's go!
All right, everyone, we will see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, stay beautiful, and may the Force be with you.